back into the textbook of God, and we're talking about the arts and scientists and how the Bible kind of brings that out and just explodes with information. Some of the Bible talks about, and sometimes we look at science, we look at, the principles of the Bible, and we think opposites. Are they opposites? And what are some of the scientific statements that the Bible kind of makes?
Well, there's actually some good examples of art in the Bible. In fact, the man whom the Holy Spirit filled and gave wisdom to design the temple furniture in the sanctuary, his name was, I've got it here, Bezalel, and he was someone who God used in a very artistic way, but it was the Holy Spirit inspired.
It's true. He had like silver craftsmanship and could work with threads and colors, right? And first man ever mentioned filled by the Holy Spirit. That's amazing. And he was an artist. Yeah. So those who say, well, the Bible doesn't speak to art, there's poetry in the Bible as well as an artist being filled with the Holy Spirit.
God's the original artist, isn't he? He speaks things into existence. And I've often thought about that. We make things. We've got resources and we make things. God just makes things out of nothing. So it's creation, right? So,
yeah, very true.
So we've covered art, but what kind of, what science... What's some science stuff? Or, really, I know you're the man for it.
Something I learned a few years ago that it blew my mind. It was incredible, was that Job, the oldest book of the Bible that was written before any other book that Moses penned, in Job 38, when God responds to Job and he starts asking him questions, do you know this? And where were you when I laid the foundations of the earth? In chapter 38, verse 31, he makes some questions about the stars. And he asks this: can you bind the cluster of the Pleiades or loose the belt of Orion? Can you bring out Mazzaroth in its season, or can you guide the great bear with its cubs? Or another translation, the King James says, Arcturus with his sons. Now, we don't know what Mazzaroth is still, but the other three constellations we do know things about from modern astronomy that validate what God was actually saying here. He says, can you bind the cluster of the Pleiades? To the naked eye, you can see 7 or a maximum of 12 stars in the Pleiades. But with modern telescopes, we know there are over 800 stars in this cluster, and they're all traveling together in a southeasterly direction. Okay. Also, modern astronomy tells us that the belt, the 3 stars of Orion's belt, if time should last, would eventually drift away. One of them would drift off even further away from the other 2, like a belt being loosed. And then the last one, can you guide Arcturus, or the great bear with its cubs? Arcturus is a star that's called the runaway star. It's barreling through space at, I think, 212 kilometers per second. Faster than just about every other star in the night sky. And what are its suns? Well, there's the Arcturus stream, it's called, where at least 52 other stars are caught in its orbit, as Arcturus is a massive star. Yet, while it flies through space, it never collides with anything. And God says, can you guide Arcturus with its sons? God says, look, your life may feel like it's flying out of control, but in the same way that I guide that star, Arcturus, I can guide your life too.
Oh, what a great thought. That God, everything God has in control, and he's actually summed it up. He's kind of said, I'm the great artist. I'm the creator, I'm the original. Now, you can express images of me through what you make, but I've created it.
Yeah, true.
And to Job, he's talking about, can you do all these things? Well, the obvious answer is no. And the more we read this textbook that God's written for us, the more we find out how powerful God is and how much he has to teach us.
Definitely.
And look, the promise is that he'll come back and he'll take us to heaven with him and teach us for eternity. I can't wait that. The eternity of information.
Forever learning.
That's God's going to do.
Students forever.
Guys, as you join on this journey, we want you to use the Bible as your textbook. God has so many things to teach you in your life today, and so many things to help. He just wants to sit beside you, care for you, and teach you and about joy, about love, and about peace. And they're things that we want in our lives. So guys, bless you as you study God's textbook.